Thank you for tuning in to the Into the Classroom series produced by Mental Health California, sponsored by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative.
Welcome to Into the Classroom, which is a student mental health awareness multimedia series produced by Mental Health California. I'm your host, Conrad Crump, affectionately known as Coach Crump, and today's focus is an introduction to mental health. Now, in today's world, so many challenges arise for our young people, and with that, it's vital for high school and college students to prioritize their mental health. By recognizing wellness basics, their importance, and strategies for self-care, students can take proactive steps toward maintaining their well-being. Today, we'll review some of the factors surrounding mental health and how various wellness levels come into play. We'll also take a look at young celebrities who have shared their mental health journeys as a way to inspire youth to seek help, foster resilience, as well as promote a culture of understanding and support. With us today is our clinician, Ali Garza. Ali is a licensed clinical social worker on faculty with the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Colorado. She has expertise in youth suicide prevention, crisis intervention, supporting parents and families, and treating OCD and anxiety-related disorders. Welcome, Ali. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'd also at this time like to introduce our youth guests. With us today, we have Monica Tamayo from the University of California at Los Angeles. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Coach Crump. Happy to be here.
Awesome. We also have with us Joel Suazo from Los Angeles City College. What's up, Joel? How's it going?
What's up, guys? It's doing great.
Good. I'd also like to welcome Michael Betlock from Sacramento State University. Hey there, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have Lucy Lebec from El Cerrito High School. Hey there, Lucy.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Now, at this time, I'd actually like to ask our clinician, Ali, if she can provide us some brief clinical insights into the key empowering concepts of mental health and its impact on youth. Ali?
Hi, yeah, absolutely. So I think adolescence and going into young adulthood, going into college is a key time in which we see a huge uptick in mental health related symptoms and also folks being diagnosed with different mental health disorders. There's some different elements to that time of life that make people especially susceptible, whether it's where they're at in their brain development, different aspects as far as like change and going to college and different supports and kind of that time of change and can just basically put people in a position to be especially susceptible. As far as pieces that are empowering when it comes to mental health during that time, there's kind of some different layers as far as where we can start to provide youth with the tools and access to resources to be able to support them in their mental health, whether it's they're dealing with, a short-term amount of anxiety all the way up to like a debilitating mental health disorder. So as far as like this time, it's a great time to start giving them the tools and getting them connected at a young age.
Awesome. That's great feedback. Thank you so much, Ali. Now, at this time, I'd actually like to hear from some of our youth participants. And just as a question by a show of hands, how many of you here prioritize your mental health? Wonderful. I see everyone's hands went up. That's awesome. It's very clear that you all are ahead of the game. So let's dig a little deeper into our discussion and bring up our slide presentation. Now, when it comes to understanding mental health, as Ali explained, relates to a person's well-being. There's a lot of different things that are going on from, your emotional and psychological space that you're in. Mental health also affects how individuals think, feel, and act, and it influences their ability to cope with stress, form relationships, make decisions, and so on and so forth. So mental health is not simply the absence of mental illness, but it encompasses a state of overall well-being. Next slide. Now let's take a look at some of the youth mental health statistics. Now, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, about 1 in 5 youth between the ages of 13 and 18 experience a severe mental health disorder at some point during their lives. This disorder can significantly impact their academic performance, their ability to form relationships or maintain relationships, and really just their overall quality of life. Let's go ahead and go on to our next slide. So definitely we understand that it's important for youth to be supported in their mental health. According to the World Health Organization, half of all mental health conditions begin at the age of 14 and 75% by the age of 24. Now, that's some alarming numbers. I mean, 50% of all mental health conditions beginning at that young age. I'd like to ask, maybe one of our youth participants here today, how they feel about that or if there's any reactions to that. So let me ask you, Joel, do you have any thoughts or reactions to those percentage numbers?
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting that, those numbers are very high, and especially how young children are that develop these disorders. Thinking about it, it all depends on, your environment, who you are around, what your family situation is. And definitely if your family is big on mental health, if they talk about good coping mechanisms, good ways to, explain your emotions, overall just good mental health in general. So I think that is definitely a big impact on those numbers.
Significant impact. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. Let's go ahead and go on to our next slide. So now let's talk about the importance of youth mental health. Now, we understand that mental health directly impacts a student's academic performance. Students with good mental health are more likely to excel academically, while those struggling with mental health issues may experience difficulties in concentration, their memory, their motivation, and so on and so forth. Next slide. We also understand that when it comes to relationships, mental health plays a significant role in the ability to form and maintain healthy relationships. Positive mental health fosters empathy, communication skills, and emotional resilience, which can enhance social connections and overall well-being of students. Let's go ahead and go on to our next slide. Now, I want to break it down a little bit because there's a few different levels of mental health that we'd like to highlight. First being at the individual level. Taking care of one's mental health involves self-awareness, it involves self-compassion, and self-reflection. It includes recognizing and addressing personal challenges and getting help when needed, as well as practicing self-care strategies. I want to pivot to our specialist here, Ali, on the call. Was wondering if you can maybe elaborate just a little bit on the individual aspect of mental health.
Yeah, I think with those three statements that they had there, there's some key things that come to mind for me. I think the first piece is the self-awareness and how challenging that could be in and of itself. When you ask, like, do you take care of your mental health? I kind of hesitated to raise my hand for a second there because truly, I think the awareness piece of being like, wait, but am I taking these things seriously to take care of myself, to be aware of what's challenging? Or am I like white knuckling my way through things? And sometimes, there's seasons of life that we do that better than others, right? That we have more willingness to be aware of like, oh, these are the areas of my life I really need to like look out for myself. And sometimes in life, we are really not great at that, especially when mental health is amping up and those symptoms are really strong. I think the self-compassion piece is one of the greatest challenges for most people who are especially dealing with a mental health disorder. For whatever reason, I think especially with like really high performing or more perfectionistic style folks, being self-critical, negative self-talk, and being hard on ourselves can be feel very like active or being proactive of like, oh, I need to like beat myself up to do better. And it's such a slippery slope for that reason of like, oh, I'm doing this to try to be better. And that goes hand in hand with that self-reflection piece, excuse me, as far as, and how am I looking into like what areas of my life do I need to adjust? What areas of my relationships or maybe I'm not presenting in the way or interacting in the way that I want to be. Or on the flip side of like, and how am I maybe being more of a doormat or like maybe doing things in which I'm allowing people to treat me a certain type of way that I wouldn't want anyone else to be treated. So that's kind of the three things and some key things that come to mind with those concepts.
Wow, no, thanks for that feedback. That's very powerful. And I really appreciate the honesty, right? Have to question yourself there. Am I really, truly prioritizing it? That's great. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. So looking at the next level of mental health, we see that this is the family level. Now, we know the family level plays a crucial role in supporting mental health. And I'd like to take the time to ask one of our youth participants to share thoughts with us on, some ways that family might play a role in supporting mental health for students. And I'd like to ask you, Lucy, can you share with us your thoughts?
I think that family can have a big impact on a student's mental health, especially since, yeah, we spend a lot of time at school. We spend 6 hours a day at school, but we also spend a lot of time at home. And families have a lot of impact on whether, like, people talk about home life a lot. And home life is a big contributor to whether someone is doing well in school or not.
Families definitely play a significant role in supporting mental health. If there is a place where families can create a space where they can have open communication, have understanding, and a safe and nurturing environment, students as well as other family members can actually experience positive mental health outcomes. So after the family level, we have the school level. Now, we know that schools often say that they promote mental health, and some do actually promote mental health. They have a number of different programs and whatnot, resources for students, counseling and things of that nature, which helps to create a supportive and inclusive environment. And that's extremely vitally important. Educating students about mental health and reducing stigma are also essential in that as well. So let me ask another one of our student participants. Monica, can you share with us what mental health support looks like at UCLA?
Yeah, so we do have therapy offered, or you could do it one-on-one, just you and the therapist, or you could go in group therapy as well. They also try to promote mental health by having days where they bring in dogs and you could just go in and pet the dogs, because it's been shown that, petting animals has shown to reduce your stress levels. So they do days like that, or they just have like sometimes in the dorms they'll have activities where you'll just have like a paint day, and it's just something to offer the students if they feel like, maybe they can't take control of it themselves, but it's being offered and they could just show up and enjoy it, and that should help them relax.
Now that is really cool. I like that. That is cutting edge stuff right there. Having dogs that you can just go in and pet and have that serotonin boost, those positive vibes, a good feeling. I think that is wonderful. I don't think I've ever heard of any university or school for that matter having pets come in or dogs come in. I think that's really awesome. So thanks for that feedback, Monica.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to ask Michael and get you in here on the conversation. What's going on over at Sac State? How are mental health supports provided for students?
Yeah, we have a kind of like Monica said, there's parts in the dorms where, they'll put up like little pamphlets around just giving you specific ideas of what's offered in the school, regarding mental health, or even just, social type of events to get people out and get people talking with each other. Um, like I've said a couple of times, we have a facility called The Well, and it's for, everything health related. There's a gym in there, which is the main part of it, but we have therapists in there, we have doctors in there. It's just an overall place for, students to go if they need help with anything. And so it's a pretty cool facility that we have on campus, and it helps a lot with a bunch of different topics.
Wow, very good. Thanks a lot for that feedback. I've heard about the Well myself before. I've never actually been there, but I've heard other students talk about it. So it seems like a pretty good resource for students over at Sac State. Wonderful. So let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Now, we know that at the broader community level, communities can actually support mental health by fostering social connections, promoting mental health awareness campaigns, as well as providing resources and services. If a community is able to create safe space and also reduce barriers to mental health care, I think that communities overall would benefit, and they would, grow and be allowed to have wellness for their communities. Now that we have our clinician here on our segment, I'd like to ask you, Allie, and just kind of pivot to you. What changes might we see in communities overall if they are actually truly provided with mental health support?
Yeah, I think it can affect basically any other area, right? When people have the resources that they need, it is beneficial for everyone involved. And when I think about community mental health, well, that can cover a whole spectrum of things. But for example, where that statistic that we did a few slides ago from NAMI, that's one of the key things I think about from community mental health. And that's a program or an organization that's like all across the country. And they provide support groups for parents or support groups for people living with mental health disorders. And they also do campaigns around education, providing parents with education, providing students. And so I think that maybe opens kind of the floodgates as far as people who maybe wouldn't have this information or wouldn't know even that there's all these resources out there. It gives them the opportunity to either access it themselves, or when they have someone close to them or that they care about, they're able to kind of pull from those resources and say, hey, this is something that we could actually do to help support you.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I totally agree. And I also feel like, the more it becomes normalized in a community, the less the stigma of seeking and accessing mental health supports will be, right? I mean, if we all normalize it and folks are able to just access it freely, and it's not something that's, oh, well, this person over here, has a problem, so they have to talk to a therapist. It's like, hey, we all got problems, right? So if we're able to just be honest, going back to that honesty piece, and have those conversations or find those resources that can help us, I truly believe it will benefit the community. So let's go ahead and go a little deeper in our discussion and talk about some young celebrities and their mental health. Now, Demi Lovato, a singer, well-known singer and actress, has been very open about her struggles with mental health, including having bipolar disorder as well as addiction, issues. So she has used her platform to raise awareness and advocate for mental health support. Also, Lily Reinhart, who is an actress known for her role in the TV series Riverdale, has spoken openly about her experiences with anxiety and depression. She actually has encouraged open conversations about mental health and self-care. So it's truly important that, we have these open and honest conversations, and I really appreciate celebrities being able to use their platform to do so. Let's go ahead and go on to our next slide. There's also been other celebrities that have talked about their challenges with substance abuse as well. According to Kid Cudi, he even states that, he was worried, looking at the quote, I was really worried. And I kind of like had that moment where I was just like, do I really want to get back on drugs and do cocaine again? Do I really want to go back on this journey at 32? I woke up one morning and I was just thinking like, man, this isn't healthy. And I don't know what else to do but get some help and find some place I can go. and I found a place. And that's his own words, right? And according to Kid Cudi, like, he's being honest, right? He's just being 100% transparent. But I know that Kid Cudi is not alone. I know that you don't have to be a celebrity to face these challenges. I look at myself, and from my own lived experience, I too had a wake up moment and a wake up call where I realized I personally, myself, Coach Crump, needed to get some help to address the root of the problem of my mental health issues, the root of the problem of addiction, and so on and so forth. So much like Kid Cudi, I asked myself the same questions, and I had to find a support group. I had to find folks that, were really for my benefit, that would really support me and help me to develop and wanted to see me mentally healthy. I also learned that I had to remove myself from people who were still engaging in some of those, those bad behaviors. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. So when we talk about taking care of our mental health, again, it is absolutely imperative that we reach out to friends, family members, or mental health professionals when facing challenges or dealing with addiction. Having the ability to share your feelings in a safe space can give you confidence that you can actually overcome the struggles that you may be facing. Let's go ahead and move on to our next slide. Another aspect is learning how to prioritize your wellness. Prioritizing self-care activities that promote mental well-being, such as activities like exercising, mindfulness, journaling, and other hobbies that bring you joy and relaxation is key. Now, being able to take breaks as well as set boundaries while practicing these stress management techniques are crucially important as well. So I'd like to take the time now to kind of go around, just a round robin. So I'll start with you, Joel. Can you share with us some of your wellness, prioritizing wellness tips?
Yeah, so for me, I like to jot down, maybe journal, as you would say it, like some of the things that I have to do during the week. I like to plan accordingly and have that written down so it doesn't bother me or make me super anxious throughout the week. One thing that I also do is, when I do go outside, I have two dogs that need a lot of exercise. So I'll take the dogs out, I'll leave my phone, I'll, not worry about notifications or getting on social media. And when I do go outside, I'll, think about the smells that are going on or around me, or the listening to like cars or listening to the birds, or overall just being more aware of my surroundings and living in the present moment. So that has been shown to like help me out. And then, I definitely feel re-energized, and I just come back home ready to, get those assignments done, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that feedback, man. That's definitely wonderful. And I appreciate how you talked about how it made you feel afterwards. That's awesome. Let's go to you, Lucy. How about you? Do you have any remedies or recommendations or things that you use?
Yeah, on a similar note, I love going to the HIIT gym. I like running. Running just makes me feel good. It loosens up my muscles. It like clears my mind. And I try to make time to go at least 3 times a week because it just it makes me feel better about what I do, what I eat, how I feel about myself. It's just like overall a positive experience to have a workout routine and to just work out.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. Yeah, definitely exercise is a big one. Let's go to you, Monica. How do you prioritize your wellness?
Yeah, I try not to like push my limits too much to the point where I, maybe I have to spend extra hours like studying. So sometimes I'll tell myself like, you know what, I can call it a night, and if I maybe I don't get that A that I want, I get the B. Well, at least I was able to sleep and prioritize my mental health in that way. So making sure that I get um at least like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's my goal. Make sure that I'm like eating a healthy diet. I try to go for like the healthier options because when you're eating out too much, you feel sluggish, and that does affect your well-being overall as well. Make sure that I'm not just like focusing on school only. I will like hit up my friends here and there and see when they have free time. so that we can like relax together and like take a break from school. Let's see. I want to get into journaling. I haven't done it just yet, but I have heard that's a good one, and it was mentioned here, I think, by Joelle. So I would like to get into that as well.
Wonderful. No, that sounds great. And I appreciate how you talked about, making time for friends and, not just only being a student. That is definitely important. How about you, Michael? What are some ways in which you prioritize your mental health?
Yeah, for me, I'm a person who tends to get, anxious or kind of like just all like, wild up when I don't have something planned out or when I know I have a lot within a certain time period that I need to get done. So I usually just try to plan, you know, days ahead or have like a month-long planner because I like to be able to put specific time towards specific things, and it just helps me, kind of feel more at ease and helps me realize like, okay, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna finish this at this time. And it's just, an overall way to help me, control my thoughts and just see the stuff that's in front of me. And it helps me to just, attack each task one by one. And then another way that I like to prioritize my wellness is as a student, there's a lot that you got to do. There's a lot of responsibilities, assignments, this and that. And so anytime I hit a goal or I feel like I put my all into something, I always reward myself after. And I feel like that always helps me because it's like, it's a fulfilling sense of like, okay, I finished this, It's like the cherry on top to when you finish something and then it gets me back into that groove and I can feel like, at the end of the day, I put my best into it. I reward myself for that, and it's like a, constant cycle. That really helps me.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Michael. That was great. I heard from all of you, and I think all of you gave great feedback from exercising at the HIT gym, from journaling and practicing mindfulness and awareness on walks with dogs. I heard, understanding boundaries, knowing not to push yourself too much as a student and making time for yourself and for your social friends and family, as well as planning. I think that is definitely a huge piece too, Michael. You talked about with having a planner and being able to plan it out. So all of you, thank you very much. And now you all that are watching in the audience, you've heard it from our youth participants, from them. I mean, it's really clear that developing healthy coping mechanisms to manage stress and difficult emotions is a way to improve your mental health. Things that you've already heard that I've already listed, can also be helpful. And I want to ask Allie, are there some other ways in which folks might be able to, prioritize mental health, wellness, things of more of a clinical nature, if you might be able to share some tips?
Yeah, absolutely. As y'all were going through all those things, I was also thinking to myself, and for whatever reason, when anxiety or mental health or depression, when those things get worse, those things for whatever reason seem to be less appealing, or we seem to be like maybe putting them off even more. And it has this very like a cycle like effect. And so I think going back to like, and when those feelings are coming up and we're feeling the urge to just like power through or like ignore all those pieces, just remembering to go back to the basics, right? Did I eat, sleep, go outside, see the sun, do all these, and for whatever reason, sometimes that is so hard to commit to. But figuring out a way to like set those limits of like, yep. And at this time, I'm going to put down the phone. I'm going to close the laptop. And I'm going to go back to the basics. And bringing in some accountability with that too. If it's like a friend or a family member being like, okay, and at this time, we're going to the gym together, right? And figuring out ways to bring other people in so you don't feel like you're just trying to force yourself to do these things alone, because that can be add an extra layer of pressure or stress with that. So
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Allie, just for bringing that in, because it's important to remember those things. Folks, at this time, I mean, we're pretty much at our time. So I want to thank each and every one of you here today for your contributions, for your thoughts. I want to thank you, Michael. Thank you, Monica, Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Joel, for your words of wisdom today. I truly believe not only has it helped me, but you're going to help someone else in the audience as well as someone that's here today in our Into the Classroom session. I also want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you for you, Allie, just for always bringing that clinical analysis and that clinical perspective to the conversation, as well as the honesty. That's something that I definitely appreciate. I'd also like to give a thank you to you, our audience, for joining our Into the Classroom session, which is a production of Mental Health California. Please be sure to visit us at mentalhealthca.org. Also, if you'd like to access health and mental wellness topics for boys and men of color, please visit our signature initiative at brotherbewell.com. And also, while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our blog. Lastly, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative, which promotes access to mental health support. You can learn all about their program at bluesky.blueshieldca.com. With that, I'm your host, Conrad Crump. Thank you very much, and take care of yourselves.